Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We have a story here which goes to show that even the SNP can sometimes be embarrassed into doing the right thing and reversing decisions. It doesn't happen often, but on this one they have absolutely been shamed into reversing a policy. And it is a good thing that they've done. Mental health is, of course, one of those hidden afflictions. And when a charity is set up that helps people, particularly in this case, men with mental health problems, because men are deemed to be strong and stoic and always keep themselves, forward-facing. Look at me, everything is fine, even if behind the facade things are crumbling. And so this male mental health charity was set up. And then funding was cut. And they were said, oh, well, we haven't got the money anymore, funding, central government, all that. And it looked like it would lose its funding, and it looked like it would collapse. It was reliant entirely on this funding. Well, it seems the SNP have, like I say, been shamed into doing the right thing, simply because the public said no. And they realised that they were on the wrong side of this one. It's only a little thing, and I think it's worth looking at, because if you can get them on a little thing, maybe we can get them on a big thing. Let's take a look. So, SNP government shamed into a U-turn on funding vital men's sheds amid chaotic cash decision. This men's shed is a charity, and it helps with mental awareness, mental health among men in particular. It was cut, it had its funding cut, and then it's been restored. So there's actually two stories here. There's obviously the story in and of itself that this mental health charity has been saved, for now at least, and of course had its profile raised, which is a good thing. But there's also the story that the SNP can be bounced into changes by people, by us ordinary people, the normies. And that in itself is astonishing. The Scottish Government's Social Justice Secretary, Shirley-Anne Somerville, confirmed that funding would go to the Scottish Men's Shed Association after a public outcry, but could not guarantee a longer-term future for the charity. Well, at least it's been saved for now, and of course it will have had its profile raised, and so that will, of course, also, as a supplementary, that will help, The Scottish Government has been forced into another screeching U-turn following public pressure after it confirmed it would restore funding to vital men's sheds projects across the country. And we previously told how the Scottish Men's Shed Association warned they could go bust this year after being rejected for funding, presumably because it's not inclusive. Because look, we don't allow women in the men's shed and all that kind of bollocks that they push. In the same way as men don't often get invited for breast cancer screening. There are fundamental differences. Not in the SNP's mind, not in the modern world where we're all freely interchangeable, aren't we? But now Social Justice Secretary Shirley-Anne Somerville has reversed the decision, confirming that money will now be handed to men's mental health charity. But she warned it will need to find other funding streams as well. And the SNP minister also hit the UK government for the lack of cash being put forward for the third sector. Got nothing to do with the UK government. You've just been handed the largest settlement in history. What are you doing with it? 46 billion you've just been handed. What's that got to do with the UK government? How you spend it's your own business. The UK government don't tell you that for that and that for that and that for that. The Nationalist Executive was accused of treating men differently to minorities and women through a lack of support for the SMSA, which helps 10,000 people a year. A total of £75,000 was given to the charity in 2022, with this money expected to be restored once again. In the grand scheme of things, £75,000 is also known as bugger all. They wouldn't give £75,000 to a men's charity because, look, it's men, mostly white men. Ew, hate them. They'll give it to black charities, to minorities, of course. Happen to have skin colour that isn't white. No worries, have thousands of pounds. What was it, £250,000 to a mosque here? £200,000 to an invaders charity somewhere else? Oh yes, they're the right colour, it's fine. Women's charities, yeah, we'll give them something because, vaginas. But if you happen to be man, ooh, no, don't like that. If you're white man, God, you're a pariah as far as the SNP are concerned. but they've been bounced into it because otherwise they could have been taken to court for racism or sexism, presumably. Maybe that's why. But 75,000 isn't a lot, as we know. Hell, hardly keep Angus in flights for a year, would it? The National Executive was accused... No, we've just done that, sorry. Miss Somerville did stop short of confirming that there would be any long-term funding for the charity due to budgetary restrictions, meaning she spent the money elsewhere on total and utter shit. This means the same situation could occur next year, just like in 2022, where the SNP performed another U-turn and gave money to the SMSA then. So they keep trying to undercut it and underfund it and kill it. They don't like it, but they're forced into doing it. What is it? Why don't you want to give money to a charity for white men? Weird, isn't it? Weird. Scottish Labour Social Justice spokesman Paul O'Kane brought up the issue on Holyrood on Tuesday as he hit out of the chaotic funding decisions made by the government that leads to so many backtracking decisions. They U-turn so much, it's like they're doing the bloody polka, isn't it? Whirly, 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 whirly. It's all they do. They can't have a policy and stick to it. And why would they not want to keep funding, trying to restrict the funding to a man's charity, and yet will push it for everywhere else? They really do loathe white Scottish men, don't they? And yet they rely upon them so much for funding. Perhaps every Scot who uses the Scottish Men's Shed Association, any one of them who votes for the SNP may consider voting elsewhere this time. The SNP don't care about you. That's quite clear. He said, I think it's clear we've been here before. This is Paul O'Kane. He says, this is not an unusual situation in terms of funding, and the Men's Shed Association needs proper stability of funds to ensure they can continue to have a huge impact on men's lives. Will the Cabinet Secretary accept that changing decisions each year, not giving them information on time, is a chaotic way to deliver funding and doesn't allow organisations to function properly? Somerville blamed the late reporting on the UK government. Bullshit. Claiming that her government receives budgetary allocations exceptionally late in the day. Bullshit. It doesn't get budgetary allocations. It gets a lump sum. They're spreading lies again. Somerville, lying. Straight to your face. Lies. Because what happens is the UK government will, every time they spend something in England and Wales, make an allocation to the central fund. So if they spend on roads, whatever the percentage is goes into the central fund. Spend on health, whatever goes into the central fund. But they don't allocate that money in the same ratio as England. They just put it in a pot and then hand Scotland the pot. How Scotland decides to spend the money is entirely up to Scotland. Now, the funds may have come from road building, health, education, blah, 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 all the bits, infrastructure here. Doesn't matter where it comes from. That's not an allocation out. They don't hand them the money and say, you're right, you've got to spend that on health, you've got to spend that on trains, you've got to spend that and so forth. They just give them the lump sum. So again, Somerville, lying through her lying teeth. They can't help it though. Lies is all they got. Coming up. It's the SNP way, isn't it? If the truth is terrible and embarrassing, just lie. Just tell complete and utter lies. Lies that you know are lies. Lies that other people know are lies. Lies that you know other people know are lies. But you'll still tell them anyway. Because it's still better than telling the truth. It's better to be called a liar than to be shown up for the complete incompetent buffoon that you are, Somerville. Thanks very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button. Do please hit the like button. And I will speak to you later. Bye.